So Joseph had been sold into slavery and transported far away to Egypt. And now he finds himself as a slave in Egypt. Lots of questions with very few answers. How is all of this going to work out? No doubt there was a lot going on in Joseph's mind at this time. His own family, the brothers whom he had gone out to check on, had sold him into slavery, and he was now bound for this unknown destination, along with a very uncertain and unknown future. Everything has been stripped away from Joseph, other than his power to choose how he responds to the circumstances that he now finds himself in. I wonder, how would you react to this situation? Have you become unpleasant when people you know well have treated you badly? Have you responded with venomous words and actions? Have you wondered to yourself, where is God in all of this? Joseph was perhaps facing the fight of his life. He was way out of his comfort zone. He'd been sold out by the very people who should have been loving and protecting him. It was difficult and it was unpleasant, but as we read on, we see clearly that God was with Joseph through all of those trying days. The real reason he didn't become bitter and twisted was that God was with him. People had been tough on him, but God had been with him, even as God continues to be with us. No matter what happens, we are never alone. Now, upon his arrival in Egypt, Joseph was sold as a slave to Potiphar, who was a high-ranking official in Egypt. In fact, he was the captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Moses writes in Genesis chapter 39 that the Lord was with him and that Joseph succeeded in everything that he did. And now Potiphar couldn't help but notice what was happening. He realised that the favour of God was upon Joseph and that in turn the blessings were flowing into his life and into his home. Joseph had not let the circumstances that he found himself in change the very essence of who he was. He did not grumble and complain that life was not working out as he had hoped it would, or indeed expected it to. He didn't live in the past where life was everything that he wanted it to be. Living in the present, he simply and cheerfully got on with what he had to do, and he did it with a smile. People noticed, and God's favour was upon him and those who were around him. I think that I can imagine him singing or perhaps humming, maybe even whistling as he went daily around his chores. Genesis 39 verse 5 says this: "From the day that Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake." All the household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. Verse 6 goes on, "So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything that he owned." As it was with Joseph there, Potiphar didn't have to worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Now I wonder, had Joseph reacted badly to his situation if it would have been different? There's no doubt that he had experienced profound disappointment at what had happened to him. But he chose to get on with life, to work with those whom God had put around him, and to worship God in all that he did. That's a real challenge to us in our day, where we see and hear people grumbling and complaining about the simplest of things. As the title of that old song suggests, don't worry, be happy. And you will find that happiness then becomes contagious. So as we step into a new week, to those people who may have let you down, show love and compassion. You may find that hard to do personally, but pray about it and God can turn those difficult circumstances around for you, and like Joseph, your life will show the favour of God in all that you do as you give him the glory. Have a wonderful week, and remember that we are blessed to be a blessing.